Hi, I'm Alden. And I'm Calden. We're Good Twin, Bad Twin. That's right. And today we are coming to you today with a special subject. As you can see, the set is a little bit different today, and we even got notes today. Well, today's topic is a little bit dear to us all. Okay, it's what are we going to do in regards to bridging the gap, especially with the political unrest or community unrest as it relates to the
Law enforcement.
right, law enforcement officers versus the community. And we'd like to focus on, well, what do we do and how do we bridge the gap? And we'll talk more about this with our special guest, Mr. Victor Mason, when we come back. And we're back. And today's guest is Mr. Victor Mason. First, we'd like to start out by giving you an opportunity to introduce yourself. Can we do that first?
Sure you can. I'd like to thank both of you for Good Twin, Bad Twin Unleashed. I feel this is an honor.
No, the honor's ours.
Good and evil, I don't know.
Hey, make sure you get the cuss from him, okay?
I will, I promise you. But I'm Victor Mason, and I'm a lifelong resident of Hinds County. I'm currently a candidate for Hinds County Sheriff. And a little bit of background about myself. Proud father, married, family of 4. Went to school right here in Jackson, Callaway High School.
That's right, that's
okay,
right.
I thought I'd throw that in. Jackson State, started my law enforcement career in 1981 with the Jackson Police Department. While there, I worked at the Patrol Division, Precinct 2, right out here, in Narcotics Division, Intelligence Division, and Youth Division. Okay. In 1992, I went to the Hinds County Sheriff's Department, where I worked in patrol narcotics. I was a DARE officer and a great instructor for the kids in school. I like stuff like that.
Yes, sir.
And I was captain over the Juvenile Division, Youth Services Division, and the Metro Child Abuse Task Force. During my tenure at the Sheriff's Department, I was allowed and selected to work for 2 task forces, the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force and the Secret Service Task Force, which protects the highest office of this land. When I left the Sheriff's Department in 2010, I went to Richmond Police Department for a little while, then got a call about a year or 2 later working for the Attorney General's office at the Public Integrity Division. Okay. So I have a lifelong history of law enforcement.
That's right. Okay. All right.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Which is one of the reasons why we asked to have this conversation
Thank
today, from the perspective, your wealth of knowledge that you can bring to the table.
Right. Well, first off, I'd like to talk about it, okay? You know, you got Ferguson, right?
Yeah.
Besides Ferguson,
Yeah.
we had a situation that's most recent, and I don't want to mispronounce the young lady's name, where the officer pulled up behind her and, of course, caused a situation where she got tased, and then she was arrested, and then during an incarceration, she unfortunately had an unfortunate incident where she passed. And of course, it created a political uproar, so to speak.
Condolences to her family.
Right, condolences to her family. And I don't want to speak, negative of the situation, but just want to point out the fact that it just added like fuel to the fire, the icing to the cake between the relationship between law enforcement and the community. And it's been personified, and we want to know what's your thoughts in regards to how do we, bridge the gap on that?
Well, my condolences go with the family also. Whenever that happens, I feel bad. Right. Because I wear the same uniform they do. And it's a scar on all of us. Right. At this point, there's so much tension and unrest between the community and police. Right. And I don't like it when it's like that because we stop talking.
Right.
There's no communication and you have tempers growing on both ends. Right. You guys, the community, if you will, become suspect. Right. Then we become the enemy. Right. And then we feel that you are suspect at some point. Now, I'm not saying all police officers think like that.
Right.
But there's just so much tension right now, and nobody has taken time out to say, let's stop and talk. Right. Okay. Let's slow down. Here are the rules of the road. Right. When we pull you over, just be still, calm down. Right. We'll tell you when we get up there why we pulled you over. Right. So just sit tight. We won't be an hour. Right. Now if you've done wrong, you have something to be worried about.
Right.
You have to think about what you've done, because you know you can't drink and drive.
Right.
You shouldn't be doing drugs
Right.
while driving,
Right.
and you shouldn't be texting while driving.
Okay.
So if we, as trained officials,
Oh, you're right.
feel that you are doing that in suspicion, we're gonna pull you over.
Okay.
But there's no need to get mad at us for doing our jobs.
Well, you brought up some good points about the obvious no texting and driving, drinking, driving, drugs, and that kind of thing.
Right.
But the rules of conduct, because you got things like driving while black,
Yeah.
you got
Come on,
road
driving-
rage.
driving about-
It's a reality. It's a reality. We could play with it or avoid it. But you know how we do here. We bring out the real deal.
Okay.
But all these issues, driving while black or racial profiling, all the like.
Mm-hmm.
How does how do you get around? What are the rules of the road in terms of what I can and cannot do? Because I've seen it said, you talked about being calm when you pulled over. Of course, not violating. But if I was not a violator, whether I'm in a vehicle or whether I'm just stopped routinely somewhere.
Well, and keeping in mind too that we don't want to narrow it down to just being pulled over. This just happened because I mean there's a lot of things that's going on.
Right.
But
Because in general, not just because not just being pulled over, but stopped or any contact with law enforcement. Now again, there are some good points that you had the Secret Santa that with the Highway Patrol, and I forget what state that was, where they were giving out money to the to stop making stops to people that look needy, and they did a positive kind of profiling, and they gave but a few YouTube videos out there. But anyway,
But you were already on the direction of saying some tips and talks of how to act when
How do
you
you
would
act,
engage with an officer.
Yeah.
So what are some of those tips?
Well, if you're driving and you're pulled over, I strongly suggest turn the radio down,
Okay.
cut the car off,
Okay.
and keep your mouth closed.
Okay.
Okay, that's the first three strong points you must know. Once we get that established, the officer will walk up and supposedly, politely tell you why you were stopped. The worst thing you can do is bark back at that officer and say, "Why'd you stop me?" Well, now we got problems right there.
Okay.
So with that being said, he's going or she will tell you why you're being stopped. As long as the dialogue stays low, we'll make this quick, and sometimes you'll be able to walk away from a situation. You know, I give you a warning this time. People get warnings because they were nice,
Right.
because they were polite. But if you want to just egg it on that like you're going to win this one, forget it, you're not going to win. And it escalates, you know, to your anger feeding to the officer's anger. He's trained to maintain that anger, but he'll take it in a different way.
okay, well, that's some good points. But before I rebut with that, because I would want to know, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but I'd like to know how far I could go. Because if I'm riding with Cal, how far
You gonna get pulled over.
how far
Don't put
can
me
I
in
go
that.
in terms of my rebuttal or my disagreements if I
Okay.
have with the officer?
If you're riding with him-
but we'll answer that when we come right back. Is that
Yeah, that's okay. Let's go ahead and break. We'll be right back in a moment.
We're back. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Mason.
Thank you.
Right. If you hadn't noticed, we do have Mr. Victor Mason with us.
Yes,
and,
sir.
distinguished Victor Mason, and you should have got the first segment because you would have known what all of his qualifications were. So we'll let him go back and share those in a minute
Okay.
again. But you were saying at the break, tips said we were talking about tips in terms of being stopped, and Al, as you brought up, what can you say back if you say back? Because some people feel like I got a right to say something back.
And the only reason I
Yeah.
say that is because people nowadays, everybody's a thug. Everybody wants to
Plus they
express
feel like they
themselves,
got
and
rights,
they
you
got
know,
rights.
rights.
And I feel like a lot of people feel like their rights have been violated for so long by law enforcement. So now
They want to take the matter into their own hands. So if I say something back, what can I say back?
properly, what can you
Well,
what can you?
as I said before, if you're the driver, just calmly sit there, and the officer will tell you why he stopped you. Now, if you're the passenger, don't say anything,
Okay.
because he's the one driving. You in the idiot seat, so don't say anything. But the dialogue is between, and I've seen this too. People on the back seat will even throw in their change.
Right.
And that's the wrong thing to do, because at that point, the officer feels outnumbered if he's by himself. So, oh, I got the driver to contend with, now I got an unruly passenger. Now, what do you do in a case like that? You have to do the best thing you can, and that's call for backup, and that's going to escalate.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you pointed out, because you said, first of all, if you hadn't noticed, he said unruly. He said be quiet. And again, a lot of people think, well, I got the right to speak. So from that perspective, I guess that the assumption is made that once I approach, if I'm the officer, and you do anything differently than that, then now you have put yourself on the offense. So now you are names like unruly, you are, resistant or belligerent, so to speak, and now that puts you in a different category. Is that a good assumption?
That's very good. You can speak, and I'm not trying to be funny, but
Right.
you can speak when the time and the date is listed on your ticket, and they call it court.
Okay.
That's the time you have to speak if you receive a ticket. But up until then, if you just want to just explain when he's asked you, you can explain then, because a lot of times an officer will ask you, do you know why I'm stopping you?
Right, and that's
And the
your moment.
calm answer would be, well, no, sir, or yes, sir, I was speeding. Okay, we okay at that point. But if you want to go and say, well, no, I don't know why you stopped me. Why did you stop me? And that's why you said it. You might not know. You might not know your tail lights were out. You might not know your tag was expired. But it's that voice control. That's what we look for.
Okay.
But if you slam it back in park and start yelling, we won that one already.
Okay.
So what are some other things you feel like could bridge the gap between officers and the community? Because, I mean, we got a lot out here. And I think the more information people have in terms of knowing what can I do, how can I get up off the couch and stop watching the TV and being a part of the problem, what can I do to resolve or bridge the gap? So what are some things people could do to resolve?
I think law enforcement on our part needs to talk more and stop being so assertive when it comes to dialogue. Okay, I think that once we start saying we are human, we're not men and women with S and bats on our chest, we're just people, and stop portraying that role like I'm Cowboy Bill and you do what I say.
Right.
Now it's a mistake on both our parts. I'll say that.
Are there places where an officer would where that situation would happen? Situations? Is it community meetings or where would I see a?
It could start.
Okay.
It could start, and that would be a good idea for it to start at a community meeting. Understand that people in the community meetings want to talk about the crime rate, but at one point, put in there of just a section of what should we do because we are afraid of police right now, and police are afraid of the community. And one policeman to another would tell you, well, I'm not going to get hurt. They don't pay me enough to do this, or some would take the attitude as, well, I'm just going to go ahead and get who I'm going to get,
Okay, well, with that said, I want to kind of get into some of the things. So we know that you actually are a candidate for the sheriff department, local sheriff department here?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So what made you run?
Everybody's talking about crime. Crime. I've been a victim of crime. I was a victim of crime in 2011, identity theft. Now, don't laugh, but it did happen.
Okay.
And then I was a victim. I was a victim of auto burglary in 2013. But I'm tired of it. I'm tired of crime. I know we can't just completely blow it out, but we can make the crooks know that we are tired of it, and we're not just tired of playing with it. Okay. We got to deal with it.
And the reason and I'm glad Cal brought that up, the fact that you're running,
Yes.
that makes I'm sure you've thought about ideas of how to change this perspective, and we feel like economics and eliminating crime is part of. If I felt safe in my neighborhood, then that might, and you were the one that were part of that, I mean the law enforcement, then that changes my perspective of our relationship. So what are some of the things that you would do, or what do you, not just nationally, giving your opinion, but in your county, what would you do to change crime or to lower, or what would some things you put in place? Because you just talked about making the officers more accessible. So what are some of the things you?
Well, I would have to retrain everybody.
Okay.
Those that are there now, they will be retrained. Those that will come on will have to be trained. And we'll have to have communication. We'll have to have that. We'll have to have classes like race relations. I'm very strong about that. We'll have to have classes of stress. You know, sometimes cops leave home arguing with their spouses. They take it out on you. You know, we're going to have to talk that down. And I want it to be a relaxed 8 hours between you and me. And I want the guys to get out of the cars, go into the houses. When we come back, and I'm not trying to take over this, I got to tell you a good story. When I was a city police officer, and you'll love this one.
Okay. Well, like he said, when we come back. And we're back. You were actually getting ready to tell us a story.
Yeah, when it's so funny, when you talk about community policing, and everybody's heard that for years, I think. I've always been a people person. That's what kind of separates me from all the rest of the guys. When I was in Precinct 2, I was a patrol officer. I got to know the people on my beat. There's this couple that still live in West Jackson today that I've really got to be close to. They're a retired couple. They have a motor home, a real nice house. Children are gone out of state, that type of thing. And one Sunday evening, I just thought I'd stop by and just say hi to him. Well, the husband was watching television and the wife was doing something in the kitchen. So I knocked on the door and she said, "Henry, police is here." And he said, oh, let me see what's going on. So he got up, told him where I was, and they said, well, come on in. I stayed in that house. I forgot where I was working, actually. I stayed in that house for a little over an hour, talking to these people, getting to know them. And he said, well, while you're here, why don't you come eat dinner with us? And I said, well, yeah, I guess I can. So she had fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, greens, cornbread, sweet tea, and peach cobbler. You know I wanted to get on the couch after that.
That's right.
And when it was over, I told him this, well, how often do you work? And I said, well, we work so many days a week and I'm off. When are you coming back? I said, well, I should be back next Sunday. They said, we'll be looking for you, just stop by. So I said, okay. So it was a Sunday that I'll never forget because we were busy. We were extremely busy on that Sunday. The dispatcher went out on the radio and asked, was I busy? And I said, well, I'm finishing up a wreck. What do you have? She said, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so said they were waiting on you because they got dinner ready and they waiting on you to come on by and eat. And that went out over the whole radio.
Right.
You know, everybody in the precinct just fell out laughing. So I said, well, tell them I'm en route. You know, I wasn't gonna miss that meal.
Right.
And when I got back to the precinct, we were tying up everything. So the lieutenant said, are you gonna take us over there with you? And I said, no, you know.
Right.
But every Sunday I had to go eat with these people.
Right.
And they never forgot me for that. And when I left JPD, they called and the lady told them, informed them I wasn't there anymore. And I don't know, it had an adverse effect on them, but I went by, you know, and they said, well, come on in and eat, you know.
Right.
So we just kept that relationship going.
That's awesome. We'll want some of that chicken too.
Yeah, it was real good too.
Okay. All right. You were talking earlier about some of the classes that you wanted to teach or whatever, or have taught for officers that are on the beats or what have you. And we wanted to know questions like, how do you fund that?
Well, you first look for volunteers.
Okay.
You have teachers that are retired, but then they're not retired.
Right.
And if they are psychology teachers or any type of instructors from Jackson State, Alcorn, wherever, bring them in. Ask them, hey, would you mind volunteering for at least 2 hours a day, you know, to help me with this? That's the first thing I would do.
Okay.
I don't want to cost the taxpayers any more than I have to, because that money is going to have to be used for something bigger.
Okay.
But that's probably the biggest thing I would like to do with the officers.
Okay.
You know, race relations classes, stress classes, classes just to make us realize that we're still human beings.
Okay.
Classes to make us realize that that other person that you don't see every day is a person that might save your life one day. So you might want to just kind of be nice to them.
Okay, so what else do you think needs to happen to affect change or to change perspective, or
Especially in our community here.
I think to be real honest with you, I think that black officers need to go into white areas. White officers need to go into black areas. And let's feel each other out. You know, that's part of the problem.
Right.
You know, and I'm just calling it like I see it. I think that we need to get to know one another instead of passing by. People have that perspective, seeing a young black male handcuffed in the back of a car, and that same officer is in that area every day taking that black person to jail.
Right.
That does not need to be. They need to see and meet this person and get us say, well, no, you aren't like that. I had a different view on you. And if he or she would say, well, ma'am, what the guy did was broke into a house, or what he did was stole a car, and I took him to jail.
Okay. All right. So as far as like the, what's your take on the DOJ report in relationships to our local jails?
The DOJ report was on target. I've read it and understood it. It classified our jail.
For all of us.
Yes.
What is the DOJ?
The Department of Justice report
yeah.
is President Obama's investigative team that was sent here in May of 2015 to evaluate our jail.
Okay.
And they completed that evaluation. And they described it as inhumane and deplorable conditions. So with that being said, funds should have been going to rectify that problem.
Well, see, the reason why I bring that up is because I don't necessarily want to talk about the status pro quo.
Right.
The question is because I want to make sure that, because a lot of people say, well, I can do this. How do you do it? Because again, that to me goes back to money. So how do you do it? How
Quite
do you
easy.
talk about
Okay,
the
it's
money?
quite easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I would do was take an assessment. Okay, where are my weaknesses in this building? Now the whole structure is weak,
Right.
but where are my priorities and weaknesses? Go take an assessment. Give this assessment, these results, to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
They're the ones with the purse strings.
Okay.
And you say, well, this is what I need. I have to have this funding to keep them in jail. I have to have that.
So how do you get the Board of Supervisors to do that? Because I think right now the current situation is that I'm not going to say that the supervisors are not being supportive, but I'm saying they have a budget and they have rules and regulations that they have to follow too.
Right,
So
that's
Well,
they can't just
but you know,
stroke the check.
but you know what? I'm not asking for much.
Right.
I'm not asking to build a jail.
Right.
Because according to calculations I've studied, that's going to be $40 million.
Okay.
And that's taboo. I don't get into that.
Right.
But what I am asking for is monies for locks, monies for doors. And that's half that price. So I don't think that's asking for much. If you want a safe county, you got to give me the funds to make it safe.
Have you talked to the state legislature or the governor's office?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not.
Do you think they need to be involved with this process?
Absolutely. If elected,
Okay.
I would talk to everybody.
Okay.
Because this is our problem. Everybody in Hinds County, this is our problem. And we have to fix this problem. You know, when I see jailbreaks, it scares me.
Okay.
Because you don't know which way they're going. And you have to get the kids in, you have to get the wife home and lock the doors because they may be coming to a neighborhood near you.
Okay.
So you have to be strapped and ready to go.
Okay. Speaking of jailbreaks, I'm saying, okay, the person obviously got in jail for a reason. Okay, so that was crime.
Yeah.
So what's your take on crime and programs that would say crime prevention programs? What's your
Well,
thoughts on
let's look at it this way.
That's good.
There are some people that make mistakes. Everybody in this studio has made one time or another. Not enough to go to jail.
Right.
But there are those that have made them, that cost them a trip to go to jail. Okay? There are programs that I would put in place. Let's take a program where a guy has a problem shoplifting.
Okay.
Okay? He needs counseling because in the fact that you are shoplifting, why are you shoplifting? If that makes sense to you.
Right.
So counselors, here we go again, volunteers.
Okay, because I was going to say,
Would be very well for that. And you're talking ministers, you're talking people of the community, retired military people that would love to do things like this. But I go back to say most of everybody, there are those that just made a mistake and got locked up. And you know they're not going to do it again. But then there are those that need to go.
Right, because the president was addressing that here nationally, and in this area, Mississippi, we have a history of unbalanced incarceration by
Right.
people, so we need prevention programs. But the economy, this local economy, do you think your office would impact that economy? Because crime, businesses don't want to come in.
Right.
So how would you impact the economy?
Well,
do you have a plan or
yes,
vision for?
I'm starting from the ground, and that is not asking for much, because crime costs. It's costing us people leaving this county,
Right.
going to other counties, and those other counties are flourishing from our mistakes. We have to be proactive instead of reactive. You know, we have to have aggressive police programs to attack this crime problem. And instead of excuses, we need to attack these problems. I say all that to say this. If you have a preventive measure, all right, it's just kind of like the Fair Street Project, if I may go there,
Okay.
from a law enforcement stance. I've told investors that I know personally, before you put anything down here, you have to get rid of the crime problem. People are not going to walk down here if you have, you know, rapists and people walking the streets. You have to have a deterrent down there, a police precinct, walking beats in these areas to say, oh, we better not go down there. You know, when you go to New Orleans, you got cops on every corner, and you think twice about stealing a cocktail shrimp out of anything down there. So with that being said, you have to show the crooks here, we're not playing, go somewhere else.
Okay. But before you speak your last words, I wanted to ask, do you have any past mistakes that you wanted to say, address or anything like that? Because sometimes people say, well, I'm not going to be a part of this campaign or be a part of his team because he used to do this or something like that. Now, not to try to drag you through the mud. That's not the point.
No,
but I'm saying if you had anything, because if you don't, then it's cool. It's okay.
Well, you know, we all made mistakes.
Right.
And I'll own up to mine.
That's it.
You know, when I was a police officer, I was pretty tough.
Okay.
You know, but today, people come to me and say, well, man, you know, I know you kind of whipped me with that stick.
Right.
You know, and I did, you know, and I whipped a few pretty hard. But some of those same people come back to me and say, well, man, you saved my life, and I appreciate it. I didn't like you back then, but I get hugs from them now. So I can say back then I was pretty coarse on enforcing the law.
Okay. All right. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Before you give your information, pay raises for employees, is that something possible or not?
Got to. You get what you pay for.
Okay.
I mean, if you don't, you're going to get the bad end. You're going to get people that will steal, people that will bring drugs in so they can supplement their income.
Yeah, because nationally we want to compete, but go ahead.
Okay. So do you have any closing statements or information that you want people to know?
Sure. I am Victor Mason, and I'm running for Hinds County Sheriff. You can go on my website, victormasonforsheriff.com. We also have a Facebook page. August 4th, I'd like to be your candidate. And if I can't be your first choice, let me be your best choice. Ladies and gentlemen, crime is serious, and I'm ready to put crime in the Mason jar. So let's do something with this. Vote for the right one this time. Victor Mason, Hinds County Sheriff.
Okay. Well, you've joined us. We thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Like I said, we really wanted to talk about changing the perspective of law enforcement with the community, and so it gave an opportune time for us to talk about that.
And just so you know, we did extend an invitation for the sheriff to come out.
Okay.
He said he wanted to come a little later, but we just wanted to let you
we'll
know.
probably be talking to him later too. So.
Okay.
But again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It means a lot to us.
It does.
you.
It
And
does.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
For joining Good Twin, Bad Twin.
All 3, 2, 1.